How's it going, everyone? It's the Beard from the Bear and the Beard podcast. We are live with the Knights of the Nerds table to talk all things San Diego Comic-Con. Sadly, not joined by my awesome co-host due to some family reasons, but we are here to talk all things San Diego Comic-Con, and this is just going to be a fun time. How you guys doing?
Great.
I'm happy to be here.
For having us
Thank
on.
you so much for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah. I was going to wait to go one at a time, but I don't know. Yeah, I'm doing great too.
Nerd Squatch, of course, is with us. Glad to have you as always. Kind of a regular host on the show now.
Mm-hmm.
So we got Lord of the Rings, National Treasure, all kinds of Marvel stuff, a Rick and Morty spinoff. So what do we want to talk about first? You guys got anything about Lord of the Rings that you're hyped about?
I mean, I'll tell you one thing I'm hyped about right off the bat, which is they did announce either during the con or shortly thereafter, Howard Shore, the composer of the original films, is coming back on, but only to do the theme song. So I know we talked about this pre-stream. You had said that you are not a huge fan of Lord of the Rings. I was as a kid. Like, I would go to sleep listening to those soundtracks every night. They're beautiful pieces of music. So I think I'm more excited for just the theme song than the show itself. But
fair enough.
Well,
yeah,
Josh,
I hope it's successful.
You were saying they spent a lot of money on this show.
Yeah, so just before the show started, I remember like hearing some things, but I didn't want to just like throw anything out. So I'm pretty sure it was 465 million that they're rolling out for the first season. Just to put that in perspective, Game of Thrones is averaging like 100 mil per season. So the fact that they're over quadrupling it means they're dumping a lot of money into it, which doesn't necessarily translate to a good show, but it translates theoretically to really good CGI, which I think shows like this really need that. If you sort of skimp on the budget, you end up with some wonky looking CGI and things. So I think that's one thing we can definitely look forward to is just really well made CGI and effects in general due to the money that they're rolling out for this.
Yeah, I do like the kind of, I guess, the transformation of the genre, right? Like Josh kind of mentioned, not everything these days has a CW Flash budget, so it's good to see that, a lot of actual effort put into the effects. Hey, I'm a big Flash fan.
Is there something you didn't like? Are you thinking of something specific?
What's up?
Are you thinking of something specific?
Specific?
From Flash, because you just happened to bring that up. So I thought maybe
King Shark.
Maybe something hurt you. Who hurt you?
No, nobody hurt me. It's just the Flash's effects hurt everyone. And
okay, their effects for the budget they have is really good.
Yes, especially their King Shark and Gorilla Grodd effects were genuinely top notch.
Gorilla Grodd was pretty good.
Once they made them, though, they could just keep using them. They owned them at that point, so
that's true.
What was that space woman creature thing? That looked really bad.
I don't recall. I'm actually behind on the Flash by.
It was one of the forces. It was one of the forces.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a space thing. I don't know. It's been a while since I watched that season.
Yeah, I was just making a quick.
I don't know. The Arrowverse ended for me at Crisis on Infinite Earths. That was a great capstone for me.
That's when it ended.
Yeah, I'm sorry I distracted everyone with that, but all to say is just like, I like the fact they're putting a lot of time and energy into TV, and it doesn't mean just because it's on TV that it has to be of bad quality from a visual effects standpoint. So I'm excited to see it from that point. I will watch it. I've watched Lord of the Rings before, but as I kind of told the Beard, I'm not a huge fan. But we'll see. Let's see if I can get into it.
Nerd Squatch, are you excited for Lord of the Rings at all?
I like Dieter was a pretty big fan growing up. I found a copy of The Hobbit on a shelf in my great grandmother's house when I was young, and that kind of started that for me. But
That's
I don't know a lot about. I know the story, but I don't know much of the deeper stuff. I never really delved into it like people, like real fans do. But I would like to. So if it's
you like
prequel,
something, you're a real fan.
It is another prequel, right? It's
using a lot of the information that can be gleaned from the Silmarillion, which I also like you. I never read the Silmarillion because I was raised Catholic. I already had one Bible. I didn't need another. So I think it'll actually be really interesting to see like them take that information from the Silmarillion, put it in Rings of Power, and I do wonder if in doing that will make the Silmarillion, which is such a dense tome, I wonder if that'll make it more accessible for people, and I hope it would, because I've never read it and I would like someone to kind of give me that boost. Basically.
Absolutely. I feel like, oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I feel like that's what a lot of people are feeling about Sandman right now. People who've never read the graphic novel, who are now having this accessible project, and which, might I say, thank God it's so close.
Is that something people can watch not knowing anything going in? Like, is it easy to watch?
Oh, yeah, because it basically is, it's, as far as I've seen, it is the story beat for beat.
Okay.
Pretty much.
Yeah, the only changes they make are, they actually made changes to make it more accessible, because the original Sandman comics were, especially in early issues, very entrenched in 1980s DC comics. And because they weren't going to like put Batman and Martian Manhunter in this show, they excised that, and I think it actually ends up making it more accessible, because you're not asking these questions about, who's Dr. Destiny.
Yeah. Right.
Anyways, go watch Sandman.
Yes, everyone go watch Sandman.
My Netflix is on because of Stranger Things, so yep, definitely gonna give that a watch. So one show I heard that came out of San Diego Comic-Con that it really feels like it just came out of nowhere. National Treasure: Edge of History.
I didn't even know this existed.
Like, I know nothing about it other than they're putting out a National Treasure show on Disney Plus. Do we need this?
So there's very interesting history behind this, actually. So for a while now, Nicolas Cage and some of his compadres have been trying to put together a National Treasure 3. That's been in development hell since the second one came out. Basically, exactly. Basically, something. The rights went from here to there, and then at this point, Disney decided that instead of continuing the Nicolas Cage series, they might as well do what Hollywood always does, reboot it with hot new actors and actresses, and see what we can do on a already existing IP.
I'll probably give it a watch just out of curiosity, because I remember liking the National Treasure show movies growing up.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
So I'm curious about it. I don't know if I need it.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if it ties in at all, with the old series. I love National Treasure. That's actually like one of my favorite movies that aren't like attached to a larger cinematic universe. I love them. I think even the second one holds up. It's not as good as the first, but it's still pretty good. And that's kind of Nicolas Cage, I think, at his best. So I don't know how a Nicolas Cage-less National Treasure can really happen.
Pig is amazing.
It's not Ghost Rider?
Hey. The door.
I'm just asking. I'm just asking a question. That's all.
Spirit of Vengeance is traumatizing.
Yeah. No. No.
You had that on a hair trigger.
Yeah, he was ready. Brian's ready.
I will say it is worth noting. I mean, most of this cast, I'm looking through it now. Most of this cast I don't recognize, but it does have Catherine Zeta-Jones and Harvey Keitel are both expected to appear, which it's not like we're lacking for star power. And honestly, the premise I do think does hold up for itself, which is doing an archaeological thriller about specifically, I think it sounds like specifically about historical America. And that's a broad spectrum that you can play with, like doing things with like Freemasons, Knights Templar. There's all kinds of minds that are either very well worn or very new that you can dig into and introduce audiences. I think what it's going to be is it's going to be a question of, if it's an ensemble cast, is this ensemble cast going to bring people in, and are they going to have the chemistry to keep viewers on?
Yeah.
And I hope that it makes history come to life, because that's really what those other movies did. Every time Nick Cage is spouting some history facts, it doesn't feel like you're bored listening to some random factoid. He brings it to life, and you learn a little something. And I always love that. I remember back on Disney Channel when the second National Treasure movie was about to premiere on Disney Channel, they would have little like snippets of him giving hints about history trivia stuff on Disney Channel, and that always blew my mind.
I think,
and I grew up in the DC area, so like seeing all those locations that I could straight up take a train to
go to, yeah,
is really cool.
I think for me, it's kind of like, I'll use an analogy. I feel like it's kind of like the song "Call Me Maybe," where it's like you hear it and you're like, "Oh God, I'm so sick of this song." But you keep hearing it and you're like, "Actually, this song's kind of a banger." Like the song's actually kind of good. And I feel like that's what National Treasure is it's one of those movies that like it's a meme and it's a joke to some extent. But I think once you get past like the meme and joke part of it, you're like, actually this is kind of interesting. This is kind of cool. They like stole the Declaration of Independence and there's a map on the back of it. Like, what if that were true? That's kind of cool. So like how they blend the history with the sort of like the mystery and, you know, Indiana Jones-esque sort of like scavenger hunt. It makes it cool.
Yeah, I hope at least in spirit it has the same spirit as the former National Treasures, because great cast back then, by the way, too. You got, I mean, really solid cast, not just Nicolas Cage, but everyone else that was on board.
Who was his best friend? I can't remember.
He's the guy from Hangover. He's the guy from Hangover. I can't remember his name. But yeah, I know who you're talking about.
I love him in anything he's in.
Yeah.
So I don't know what Comic-Con brought out, but Dieter, you said you know some Star Trek stuff at Comic-Con?
Absolutely know some Star Trek stuff. I know a lot of Star Trek stuff. I know too much Star Trek stuff. And so I'm a Deep Space Nine guy. In fact, I doubt you can make it out, but you definitely can't. The glass that I'm drinking my rum out of does in fact say USS Defiant on it with the Starfleet logo. Because I'm that nerd. And so yeah, Star Trek had a couple of panels at the con, and we didn't get a ton of major announcements. Certainly nothing as big as some of the other players that we're going to be talking about in a little bit. But we got some nice little tidbits. First thing we got was we did get a trailer for Star Trek Picard that confirmed and showed us in costume the main cast. For those who don't know, Star Trek Picard is bringing back basically the entirety of the Next Generation cast. Yeah. We're getting Brent Spiner, obviously, but we are also getting Jonathan Frakes, Gates McFadden, Marina Sirtis, LeVar Burton, and Michael Dorn. And we got to see our first looks at what those characters look like, 25 plus years since we've last seen them. And if you grew up with TNG, which I did, it made you feel something when you saw it. Outside of that, we also got news that in the world of comic books, we are getting a new Star Trek series written by the Hive Mind, Jackson Lansing and Colin Kelly. They are bringing back Benjamin Sisko.
I'm with Rafe.
I'm
with Rafe.
So, for those who don't know, Avery Brooks, who played Benjamin Sisko, his character in Deep Space Nine, at the end of Deep Space Nine, spoilers for a 20-year-old show, goes into a wormhole and disappears with not but the vague promise that he will come back again. And Deep Space Nine is a part of the Star Trek canon that really hasn't been touched since. And it's finally being touched. We are going to get to see the return of the Sisko, which is just really exciting. And then the final thing that I wanted to bring up is, for me, this was the most surprising thing to happen at SDCC this year. Star Trek Strange New Worlds, starring Anson Mount, they were coming on to do a little bit of a panel, and the panel was crashed by Tawny Newsome and Jack Quaid, who play the animated characters Beckett Mariner and Bradward Boimler on Star Trek Lower Decks. And after the confusion was settled, Anson Mount finally realized, oh, that's right, they're here because Star Trek Strange New Worlds and Star Trek Lower Decks, they're doing a crossover, baby. They're coming together.
I love
we
Jack.
don't know.
I love him.
It was so much fun to watch. We don't have any clue about how this is going to work. We do know Anson Mount has said that he has been animated. We know that Tawny Newsome and Jack Quaid have kind of implied that they've been fitted for Starfleet uniforms. So it looks like it's going both ways, but it is just, this is New Trek fulfilling
That's
the
cool.
promise of New Trek. I'm so excited.
That's neat.
Yep.
I was more of a Star Trek Voyager guy, so I never really got into Next Generation. But I love a lot of the cast members from that show. And I remember little snippets because my dad's a huge Trekkie. And so I've seen Data. I've seen the other characters who I know more by their actor names. Will Wheaton.
Yeah. I'm like
by the way, have a cameo on Picard last season, and just seemed like it was one of those things of I don't mean this as a criticism to the man. I didn't feel like he was acting, but the reason I didn't feel like he was acting and giving an honest performance is because he was just radiating with so much joy to be back in the Star Trek world and to be welcomed back after, spending so much time kind of wrestling with his identity as Wesley Crusher.
Wesley.
So another thing I'm kind of excited for, I don't know how I feel about it, the Vindicators. Now, the reason why I say I don't know how I feel about this announcement, I couldn't get into the opposite one, the other kind of made by the same creators, but not in the same universe of Rick and Morty kind of thing. I wasn't really into that show at all. And so another show off of those same creators worries me because Rick and Morty worked. And I don't know how this show is going to work, but I'm curious about it.
So I'm now that I've gotten off the soapbox, I'm giving it to someone else. I didn't know that Rick and Morty had any spinoffs. So what's this about?
So,
what's the plot?
Well, Solar Opposites, and it's not in that universe.
That's
it's
a
just
different
another
universe.
show from Roiland.
Okay.
I just couldn't get into Solar Opposites, but it's a lot of the characters are voiced by some of the voice actors from Rick and Morty, and the creators created it. It wasn't my cup of tea. This is happening in the Rick and Morty universe.
It's the Christian Slater thing.
And I don't know what it's going to be because these were kind of characters that Rick kind of shoved to the side and almost killed them all. He did kill them all. So this has got to be a prequel.
Yeah, it is.
Oh.
Yeah.
Because they're all dead.
Right, because there's Vindicators 1 and Vindicators 3. What this is
Oh.
It's okay. He'll be back. Just keep rolling.
Yeah.
He'll be
This
back.
is Vindicators 2. So
Yeah.
it's in between the other episodes. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's obviously their play off the Avengers. Like that's pretty clear in the name even. But then once you start to see the episode, they're making fun of superhero, making fun of Marvel. It really feels like in those episodes, which I am someone who, even when I'm very passionate, I really enjoy things. I'm not so like narrow-minded that I can't appreciate if someone's going to make fun of something in a funny or clever way. So I'm all for it. So even if I'm a fan of something, if you're going to like cleverly make fun of it, I'm there for it. So I like the Vindicators. I thought it was funny and clever, and the way they did it was interesting. And so I'm curious to see like a spin-off show with them and see how they do things. And I kind of mentioned this a little bit in the pre-show, but I was just saying how I do enjoy Rick and Morty and I enjoy the comedy that they do, and I feel like
Very
the
funny.
extra layers that are there beyond just hey, let's be funny or edgy for the sake of it, but let's actually like communicate a message.
There's a depth to it for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
and I enjoy that.
Rick, even at his surface, like Rick has some deep stuff going on in his head. I mean, at his surface, he's a scientist who does crazy stuff, but he has some deep pain, and you see that. You don't just see it happen within one season. You see it happen very, very slowly over the course of the whole show.
Right. It reminds me of Breaking Bad in a sense of like, who's the hero, right? Because you spend the beginning of Breaking Bad being like, Walt is the hero, and you sympathize with Walt, and they do a beautiful job throughout that whole show of transitioning you and taking you through the journey of like, Walt's the hero, we're Team Walt. So by the end of it, you're like, yo, this guy sucks. Like, you know, and it's funny because it's like so well done. And I feel like Rick and Morty was trying to do the same thing, where it's kind of like, hey, Rick's the cool guy and he's the fun character, but the more you delve into it, they're actually trying to show you like the flaws in Rick. They're trying to show you that you shouldn't be this kind of a person, that there's repercussions for being like this.
Morty goes on a whole rant one episode where, because Summer is idolizing Rick because he's such a hero, and Morty goes on a whole thing about how we're not even your Rick and Morty.
Right.
They're buried in the backyard. He doesn't care. But then, but Rick, so Morty believes that, but to a degree, Rick actually does care.
Yeah.
But he's so flawed and he has so much damage that he is just so toxic to the people in his life. But I have to agree with Rafe. I need a season 6. I need a season 7, 8, 9, 10. I need a million years Rick and Morty.
It's had lulls, but there's literally, this is what I really hope for from the Vindicators. There are like I'll laugh. It's not super hard to make me laugh, but Rick and Morty is one of the few shows that's made me like belly, like rolling on the floor. Like I have to like breathe, like focus on breathing because it makes me laugh so hard. There's different moments that like stand out in my memory that the first time I heard them that I just was like, it was so funny. And I hope that we get that with the Vindicators as well. It's a hard thing to replicate, as they've shown, because they have had ups and downs. I think anybody who's a fan of the show, who's seen any of the seasons, there's definitely some that are better than others, and it doesn't go in order. It's not like one is the worst and then our latest is the best. There's ups and downs in my opinion.
There's just some episodes that you can kind of skip and be like, eh. But no, don't even skip them though, because even the skippable episodes still have some laughs to them. And I love how you mentioned how much the Rick and Morty and stuff like this actually can make people laugh, because a lot of adult comedy now I feel like doesn't make me laugh. Like Family Guy, I still enjoy new Family Guy. Like I'll watch the episodes and I thoroughly enjoy them, but I don't laugh out loud. I don't cackle. I do, like you said, I laugh out loud at Rick and Morty. It's got some funny stuff. It's a little bit more like witty, I guess. I feel, maybe I'm wrong, but I get the sense it feels more clever to me. It feels more crafty than just going at the low hanging fruit that sometimes I feel like shows like Family Guy tend to go for. Which is fine in its own right. Like sometimes it is nice to put something on like Family Guy or whatever and just kind of zone out and chuckle every now and then. But yeah, what about you guys, EJ, Jay? I mean, have you guys seen Rick and Morty? How do you guys feel about this new show and Rick and Morty in general?
I mean, yeah, so I've watched a couple episodes, but I can't say that I'm a huge Rick and Morty fan, right? But I do know the concept. I have watched a couple episodes. I'm really interested to see how the Vindicators do, because I'm noticing as we keep on bending in the superhero genre, a lot of what we're getting into is parody and commentary. Like we have The Boys and Invincible and Watchmen even, right? So instead of giving your regular like popcorn superhero film or superhero content, a lot of people are kind of bending the genre that way. I think Vindicators can do a similar job at that in a cartoon sense. So like I think that what I've seen of it, because I did see what they kind of present at Comic-Con, I think it could be very interesting, and I will definitely check it in, and I'm sure we'll do some type of review or something like that on Knights of the Nerds table sometime soon.
I need to see a trailer so I know what kind of concept they're going for this.
Isn't there
what I would
out?
do. Oh, I never saw a trailer.
Didn't they release one?
I just saw the announcement that
I think they have a poster. I don't know if they have a trailer yet.
I think they released a trailer.
Okay.
I'll have to look for that after the live for sure.
Yeah.
But I kind of hope they go a direction where they less focus on them being superheroes and more them being individuals that have to be superheroes. I think that'd be kind of interesting. Like they got personal lives to deal with too. But speaking of superheroes, I think one of the most anticipated movies of this year, we got a trailer for Wakanda Forever. And by the way, that is just such a shiny, beautiful, like turning. I could not get the title card and not get the GIF version that just turns because that was beautiful.
Yeah.
The whole trailer.
The whole trailer was beautiful. If you didn't tear up, I don't trust you.
I mean, nothing I didn't. I was just gonna say it was nothing I didn't expect. Like I came in there, I didn't know. Like I expected just regular action or whatever, but when they put that piece together, they blended together of No Woman No Cry with Kendrick Lamar's "We Gonna Be All Right." I was like, that is just a beautiful combination, and it's just beautiful, especially thinking about all that's been going on behind the scenes with that movie.
Yeah.
And Angela Bassett's performance in the trailer alone is...
What I loved about the trailer so much is that it didn't spoil any major points of what's happening in this movie that we didn't already know before the trailer came out. We knew Namor was going to be in it. We knew someone else is probably going to take up the mantle and T'Challa is likely going to be passed away. And that's pretty much what the trailer showed us. Namor and the family.
So I have a question about this movie, and I want to sort of open it up. We can take turns or whatever. But so when the first Black Panther movie came out, it was like hugely impactful. Like musically, what it did, visually, what it did. I mean, it took a direction that Marvel just hadn't gone yet, it was like groundbreaking. And I think most people agree that it's one of the best movies that Marvel has made. Like it's one of their best ones for sure. So I'm curious, what do you guys think about this next movie? Like, do you think that Marvel can sort of repeat that? You know, do you think they can hold it? And like, what are some of the things you think they should do or shouldn't do? Because I feel like there's definitely a world where they screw it up and they kind of undo some of what they did very positively in the first movie. So I guess, what are your guys' general thoughts? Like, how do they do it right?
Every sequel has the potential to not live up to the original, but I don't see this movie being the same way. Like when Black Panther originally came out and everyone was seeing it the first day in the theater, I didn't go see it the first day, and I'm hearing all these reviews and everyone's saying it's like the perfect movie. It's so great. And I'm like, there's no way this is going to live up to the hype, because movies never live up to the actual hype. And I sat down in that theater and it blew the hype out of the water. And I mean, they have the same people working on this one. Ryan. And so I feel like that same passion,
the same people.
That same passion is going to go into this movie, and they're just continuing the story that they already built. So I see no reason why it wouldn't blow the first one out of the water, even if not at least be as good, which would still be great.
I mean, I think the biggest challenge, the elephant in the room is, of course, the unfortunate passing of Chadwick Boseman, right? So we have to see how they handle that. And there are ways, I don't envy their job on this, because there are ways narratively to make it look a little bit more tapped on, you know what I mean? Where it's like, really does it fit with the narrative of what the movie is going to be? You want it to be its own thing, but you also don't want it to be impactful, but you also don't want it to be distracting, right? There's a lot of ways you can handle that, and I'm going to be interested to see how they handle that in particular. But the ensemble cast there is great. Like we say, Angela Bassett, we have Yuri. I think Namor's supposed to be in there this time. I forget who the actor is, but there's a lot of possibilities for this. And Ryan Coogler is one of my favorite directors. He's up and coming. He's in a lot of good films. If anyone can pull it off, I think he'd be the guy to pull it off.
I think the biggest thing this movie has going against it, and I'm not saying anyone's wrong for believing this. I think that it was right for them to not recast T'Challa. But there is a large amount of people on the internet who are very upset with this movie for not recasting him. And although I don't agree with them, I see where they're coming from when it's said right. And I think those people feeling that way could potentially harm this movie at the box office.
I don't know. There's a large movement, especially in my African American nerd circles, where like we felt that it was such an iconic role, they'll be almost disrespectful to recast.
Exactly.
So there's two ways to look at it. I can agree with both sides, but I'm hoping that regardless of what the decision the studio makes, looks obviously they'll probably kill him off, unfortunately. But I would hope that people wouldn't hold that against the movie too much, because it's a tough decision to make, and I can sympathize with both decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think honestly, I think when Chadwick Boseman died, there was such an outpouring of grief and loss because it was so sudden, and frankly, he
kept it all private.
Exactly.
Like I didn't know. I feel this is everybody. I had no idea he was even sick until I saw a post that he died, and I was like, "No, he didn't." That was my first reaction. I'm like, "This is just some."
I thought it was a celebrity hoax.
That happens all the time nowadays. You guys know, it'd be like, "Oh, so and so's dead," and they're not.
And it wasn't like it's not just us, the fans who didn't know. Like people who worked with him day in and day out didn't know. And I think, no matter how you feel about should we recast T'Challa, should we not, I personally fall in the camp of no, we shouldn't. There are other options. Black Panther he's not known as a legacy character, but being a legacy character is baked into the DNA of Black Panther. You can continue the Black Panther lineage without T'Challa. But I think in the short term, the need for closure, we've had the closure of Chadwick Boseman's death, but nobody has had the closure yet of T'Challa's death.
Right.
And I think people need that, and I think that's going to outweigh any controversy of, oh, should we recast? No, should we not recast?
Yeah.
I just hope people don't boycott it, though. That's my concern. Because I think if those same people went into this movie and they loved Chadwick as Black Panther, I think this movie is going to do a great service to remembering him. Yeah. And I think if they actually go in and watch it, they're going to love it. Yeah. But if they use that, oh no, I'm going to be stubborn and say they should have just recast him and not see it at all, I think that's what I'm worried about.
Yeah, I mean, I just disagree with that sentiment of wanting to recast him. Like I do, like you said, Beard. I want to be sympathetic or empathetic towards people that maybe feel a certain way, but I feel like it's kind of being ignorant, if I'm going to be honest. It wouldn't have
felt right if they recasted him.
Yeah,
not at all.
He did such an impactful role in doing that character.
Yeah. It's not like, oh, there was a disagreement with the studios, or he was like a big diva or something. Like he died. You know, like it
he
just
didn't
seems
Terrence Howard way
disingenuous.
out the movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know. The one thing I'll also say about Chadwick Boseman is that he just had a lot of connections with Black Hollywood royalty. Like he went to Howard University, which is the biggest Black college in the States. He also had been trained by Black elite African American elites in Hollywood, like Denzel Washington and Felicia Rashad. Like he was just so connected with the culture. Like to me, his death felt like Kobe Bryant to me. Like that one was just tough, and I don't care to see anyone recast as him at this point. It's we're just willing to let that go.
We did an episode back when he passed away where we just did a highlight about his career. Yeah. And one of the big things we found out through our research is every role he ever accepted, he only wanted to do if he believed it would be an impactful role. And when you look at his IMDb credits, every role he plays is impactful in some way.
Yep.
Like he didn't just do it to collect a big paycheck. He did it because he wanted to do something that was meaningful.
Yeah. He got to be Jackie Robinson.
He sure did.
Yeah.
He sure did.
Yeah, I think it's I think really what we're getting at here is that them sort of retiring the mantle insofar as T'Challa is really a credit to who he was when he was alive, even beyond the Marvel universe, right? I think that's really what it is it's more than just, you know, Chadwick Boseman as Black Panther, but Chadwick Boseman as everybody that he's played. And like you said, Beard, like these impactful roles, it's just, I think there are certain people that there should be like that extra reverence, you know, that little extra sort of piece to it, just sort of as a remembrance thing, you know. And I think anybody, I don't want to just come across as rude. I feel like it's kind of ignorant. I feel like you're not really seeing things properly. If you really look at the whole picture, you know, you can want there to be another Black Panther, and there could be another Black Panther. T'Challa is, you know, we're moving on from T'Challa, and I think that's how it should be.
And moving on to Kevin Cole. That's a deep cut for anyone who read Christopher Priest's Black Panther back in the mid-2000s. And boy, oh boy, would that be problematic if they actually did that.
I just want them to bring Storm in and have a Black Panther Storm relationship.
And we're getting Ironheart
story right now
in Wakanda. We're getting Ironheart. That's exciting.
We are.
I have a feeling we're getting bigger things too. Like, I think somebody big is behind these two countries fighting, and we aren't ready for that.
Now, Nerd Squatch, I'm going to ask you a question. Do you think that just on gut instinct, or do you think that because of a certain previs image that leaked on Twitter about a month or two ago?
I don't know. Look, there was a location in the trailer that looked like a location in a previous shot, but I had a gut feeling before I saw the previous shot, too. I mean, look, it makes sense. Vibranium.
Yeah.
And if Atlantis and Wakanda are the two places on the planet that might have it, the rich and the wealthy are going to go after it.
As will, I'm sure, other foreign leaders and dictators.
Yes.
Jay, we're gonna have to talk after the episode. I want to know your theories.
Okay.
But I also want to talk to you after the show, but right now as well, about this awesome show, She-Hulk.
Yo, let's go.
If anyone's ever watched the show, you know I am a huge Hulk fan. Hulk. Like, I love the Hulk. And before this show was announced, I actually didn't know much about She-Hulk at all, other than the fact that she's Bruce's cousin. Well, Nerd Squatch recommended some awesome comics for me, and let me tell you what, I am so hyped for this show. Like, let's go.
So before we dive in, what comics were recommended? Which ones have you been reading?
So I use the Marvel Unlimited app.
As well, you should.
And
A fun app indeed.
Everyone should use the Marvel Unlimited app. If you're not, get it. It's amazing. It's like $10.
While you're looking that up, I'll go ahead and give a shameless plug for Knights of the Nerds Table. We have our latest video up, which is watch this before She-Hulk comes out. Dieter did it. He did an excellent job on it. So definitely go check it out. That video is over 20,000 views as of this
25,000 actually right now.
25.
Oh, wow.
So we're super pumped about it. It's doing so well. Dieter, well done. Great job. He did an excellent job on it. So yeah,
that was the one that I was doing because I was obligated. I have another one coming out later this month where I will be covering very specifically. It's going to be about the sensational She-Hulk run by John Byrne.
Oh, nice! Fantastic.
I'm also going to touch a little bit on Slot's run, and
that's what I gave him. Or Brian was Slot.
Gotcha.
Because
I'm going to touch a little bit on
one. That's one I read, and I read the first two issues of the Savage She-Hulk, the original ones.
Okay,
and
nice.
I want to talk about that for a second because I'm guessing you've read that, Dieter. Because you talked about it in your little thing. I actually did watch that before this. How about the fact that literally Bruce goes out of his way because he's in hiding to meet up with his cousin, and then right after she gets shot and he gives her a blood transfusion, he's just like, okay, I'm a dip now. He comes to town, gives her a blood transfusion, and dips. His whole reason for being there was he was going to hide with her, but dips without.
Hey,
even
it's not
checking
better.
if
It's
she
not
be all
anything
right.
better than what Maestro did. So,
So there's this little thing that happened a lot in Marvel Comics in the 1970s and 80s. Maybe you've heard of it. It's called plot contrivance. Which is where we just need stuff to happen so that we can sell a book.
Yeah.
And yeah, Savage She-Hulk is definitely a little bit full of that for sure. And I will say, if you enjoyed Slot's run, Slot does a couple of cheeky little references to it. Check out the Sensational She-Hulk by John Byrne, because I think that's very much going to inform what we're going to see on She-Hulk Attorney at Law, which, Jay, I know how excited you are about this as well. What are your thoughts? Tell us about it.
I love Jen. I'm a cosplayer for people who don't know, and I cosplay Jen Walters. I think she's just the best. But I have loved both Hulk and She-Hulk since I was little. And was it Spider-Man that she was on back in the day, or did she have her own show? I can't remember.
If you mean back in, like, are we talking like 90s when the
Or was
Fox
it X-Men?
Spider-Man show was?
She was.
I think she was just on Hulk, because there was an Incredible Hulk series that was airing around those same.
Okay, it must
I'm
have
pretty
been
sure
that,
she
but-
was only on Hulk, and then the only other time that she would have been on, like after that, for like Spider-Man, could have been Ultimate Spider-Man, because Ultimate Spider-Man had everybody in it. I mean,
Okay,
everybody.
That's way after that, because I'm talking when I was
That's like-
little. I was watching it on.
Yeah,
VHS.
she's not in the '90s cartoon. I'm
No.
very, very sure
No,
about that.
she's an Ultimate Spider-Man. There was a crossover.
But she was in Ultimate Spider-Man in the 4-part episode Contest of Champions. She was played by Eliza Dushku, otherwise known as Faith from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. She was in the 1990s Incredible Hulk series, originally voiced by Lisa Zane, and then later on voiced, I think probably more famously, by Cree Summer.
That's it.
Cree Summer. I love her. She's one of the best voice actresses of all time.
And a great voice for the character, I think.
I know. She's just has one of those iconic voices too. Like you hear her in Rugrats, you hear her in Batgirl, you hear her basically in almost any cartoon you could think of, especially in the 90s.
And she's doing live action stuff now.
Yeah.
She was in What We Do in the
awesome.
Shadows last season.
Nice. Love Cree Summer.
I gotta catch up on that.
Jay, you were mentioning that you dress up as She-Hulk, and I had to go
Do you
find
have
that.
the photo? Oh gosh.
I got the photo. You
There's
look
the
awesome.
picture.
Yes! Oh my god, yes!
Thank
You, sir. You, sir.
Thank you very much.
I love it.
I was gonna say, I watched some of Orphan Black, so I really love Tatiana Maslany and what she
Very
can
great
do
actress.
from what I've seen. And when they cast this role, I was like, wow, I would have never done this in my head, but I thought from the beginning she was gonna nail it. I mean, she plays all those different characters on that other show. I mean, you would imagine she could handle the dichotomy of this role. So I'm very excited. And they sent out the first four episodes today to screeners, and people have said it's fantastic.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited.
I'm excited to watch her break the fourth wall.
Yes, she was doing it
Because
before
in
Wade
that-
Wilson.
In that
Let
one
me
little
say it right
trailer,
now.
oh my gosh, if anyone complains about her breaking the fourth wall because of Deadpool, I will shut that down.
She did it first.
Let me. I gotta rant about something.
Go ahead. Get up there, Dieter.
So, for those who don't know, Knights of the Nerds Table, we're kind of still finding our feet as a channel, and we're still figuring out different segments. And I have kind of made my little land in the world of exploring and explaining trivia. And I was so mad when they showed in the trailer She-Hulk breaking the fourth wall. Not because she was breaking the fourth wall. That is a well-established part of her character. but because I am currently writing an episode about how Deadpool wasn't the first guy to break the fourth wall in Marvel Comics, and that was supposed to be like some obscure piece of information, and the freaking trailer ruined it.
That's okay. Not a lot of people have seen that little piece of the trailer. My brother Dustin, he keeps track of these trailers like crazy, and I had to go find it for him and find that little snippet where she's breaking the fourth wall, basically confirming that we're getting Blonsky, Banner, and Wong every episode, and Matt Murdock is supposed to be in every episode.
I was just about to say, can we talk about why all the bros are watching?
Oh, Matt Murdock. They're watching it for the plot.
Hey, look, I just love that he's fashionable enough to have a costume for every genre of show that he's in. He's in a comedy, he wears yellow and red. He's in his show, he wears all red.
Do you think we're going to see him? I mean, I don't know why we wouldn't. Do you think we're going to see him do lawyer stuff heavily?
We're gonna see him get his ass schooled. That's what we're gonna see.
I think we're gonna see him out of the suit more than anything, because I feel like it's kind of takes away from what they're building by bringing these characters back into the fold. If we just get like, oh, Daredevil is doing all this fight, I think we get like a fight scene, and I think everything else is just Matt Murdock just lawyering away, writing on paper and handing out folders and slapping folders on desks and declaring things emphatically. That's what I think we're doing.
The courtroom should matter, because at least in the run that Jay sent me, the fight scenes, although they're kind of like, oh, at the beginning, oh, at the end, oh, here's the thing in the middle, and the court case is really what matters. Yeah. And so I hope they do that with the show, where whatever client she has each episode, or maybe it's just Blonsky all season. I don't know.
It's a case a week.
I hope so too.
I really
hope Blonsky's like
that would be a really
case.
Cool way to do it, but I think from the trailers it doesn't look like that, but it looks like they're going to do a case and sort of stretch it out. But it looks really cool either way.
So I gotta ask though about the logistics of this, right? Because in Daredevil, Matt Murdock is a defense attorney. That's his thing. Is he like beats people up and defends the innocent? Like that's his thing. Jen in the comics used to be, as I recall, and Beard, since you've read Savage She-Hulk a little more recently than I have, you could probably confirm this. She originally started off as a prosecutor. So it makes sense for them to be on opposite sides of the courtroom. But based on what we've seen in the trailer, it looks like they're going off the Dan Slott run, wherein she was a defense attorney working for the Superhuman Law Division of those four names that I can't remember off the top of my head.
You're right.
And so I wonder, are we going to see, it would be kind of cool to see the two of them face off, prosecutor versus defense. But also, what if they do like the reverse of that and have Matt and Jen like having to prepare a defense together, while on the other side it's their superhero alter egos that clash.
One thing I really liked about the Netflix show was they didn't shy away from the courtroom. You get the courtroom; that's a big part. The legal stuff in general, not even just the courtroom, but the office, the really crappy office that they start in. I liked it. I thought there was a good amount, because I didn't want to feel like I was watching Law and Order, but I did like the courtroom and the law stuff that was in there. I thought it was a good balance. I love those shows. I'm biased. I probably shouldn't talk about them because I love them.
My biggest complaint was how often Matt couldn't make it to the courtroom for some reason.
Right.
I hated that. Like, I wanted to see him in the courtroom.
More.
But it was usually foggy. Now, I have not seen the third season of Daredevil, so I am behind, but still.
I don't want to go off on a rant. I'm going to leave it alone. I love those shows, and that's a topic for another time. I'm just very excited that these characters are being brought back into the fold, because I think that those Netflix shows are criminally underappreciated. I think they are excellent, and I think the actors and actresses involved are phenomenal.
Oh yeah, they have some of the best talent ever. Vincent D'Onofrio is a powerhouse in that show. Oh my god.
Has anyone seen what this show is rated? Like, is this going to be an adult show, or is this going to be like family friendly?
Schulte, I would imagine TV-14 probably.
I just see it as She-Hulk Sex in the City, so it's probably going to be pretty adult, possibly.
Yeah, it's Marvel does Ally McBeal. It's I would say it's going to have a lot of sexual comedy. So
that's who she is.
Yeah,
that's who she's always been.
She's one of the things, I don't know how much I'm going to get into it in the video that I'm putting together, but one of the things that I find so fascinating about her is how sex positive she is as a character. And I love her for that because she's so unashamed of who she is. Mm-hmm. But there's always this constant tension. And if you read Sensational She-Hulk, you'll sense it, where she spent so much of her career being this model of sex positivity, while at the same time almost exclusively being written by men. And it's a weird tension. Weird. I love her stories, but it's something that I can never quite escape from either.
One thing I love that you touched in your little video, because I watched that before this, you mentioned how different her and Banner are, and I'm really excited to see that in the show, where she has a little more of a handle over her emotions in Hulk form. I mean, she's not raging and destroying stuff like Hulk did. Yeah. And honestly, from the trailer, it looks like a lot of the Hulk stuff's coming easy to her, and that's kind of going to tick off Bruce a little bit. And I'm kind of excited to see that tension.
Yeah.
And if Bruce Banner, famously a guy who handles his emotions really well, so I'm sure jealousy is going to come super naturally to him.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's cool because, like Dieter pointed out in his video, it's like she's just comfortable. It's not even like just the control thing. There's like a comfortability there, right? So she's not ashamed or scared of. She like embraces it fully, which it was kind of a shock to all of us when it was revealed. Like we got Bruce embracing his Hulk, and we get Professor Hulk, and it's like kind of, it was off-putting for me. I don't know about you guys, but it kind of threw me off.
I've come around to it.
See that. I have come around to it, sure, but like I didn't expect it. Is really what I'm saying. Is it like it really threw me for a loop? But then I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like, yeah, it makes sense. Like, put the brains and the brawn together, then you got a pretty cool character. So
I actually wasn't coming around to it until after I started reading the She-Hulk comics and seeing how well it works for someone to go back and forth between Hulk and human and stuff like that. And I hope that they do the same thing with Bruce, where he gets to be Bruce sometimes and then Hulk out when he needs to. Because that kind of worked for me. The only problem I've really had with the whole Smart Hulk thing is the fact that they should call him Professor Hulk, but Marvel always calls it Smart Hulk. And that's never sat right with me. Why not just call him Professor Hulk officially? Because that's what the fans call him.
Yeah. And they're basing going off on a rabbit hole, I apologize, but Beard, have you read the 90s Peter David run for Incredible Hulk?
No, I have not read a whole lot of Hulk comics. I'm recently getting into actually reading comics. I've read the first original Hulk comic. Like the first two. Well, the first thing actually has a bunch of issues in one, and then there's one after that. That's all I've read of Hulk comics.
Gotcha.
And actually, it was very interesting in the original Hulk comics to kind of a little bit. Originally, he transformed between night and day.
Yes. Yeah, he was very much a gothic horror kind of Jekyll and Hyde thing. He only came out at night.
Romanticism.
I don't know how I felt about that.
Weird.
It's and do you know why he was do you know why he turned gray or turned green?
Why is that?
So the reason, so for those who don't know, back in the 1960s, Hulk started off as a gray monster. And about 2 to 3 issues in, he turned green. And the reason why is because printing in those days, they could never get the gray color to remain constant page to page. And the printers got so fed up and they kept complaining about it that Stan Lee just decided to change it to green because they knew that they could do that consistently. They wrote it. They wrote in a
love
whole
the green,
reason about
so-
like radiation or something, but that's the real reason is because they were losing.
Weird.
Rafe's talking
Yeah, the
about
whole-
when shoves She-Hulk off the side of the cliff. I love that.
Mm.
And we did
Yeah, I
see,
think
we
the
did see her
only-
flip him off in that too.
Yep.
What's that, EJ?
Oh, sorry. I was saying I think the only Hulk comic I've read was Hulk versus Wolverine.
Oh, the Incredible Hulk. I forget the number, but with Len Wein was the artist, I think.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah, no, that was pretty interesting because when I first started getting into comics, all I wanted to do, just because I was a destructive little boy, is I wanted to see them fight. So, you know, anything that wasn't really
We
interested
don't
in
have time
anything
to
else.
unpack all of that.
I was like, yeah, let me take my action figures together and just smack, let's see who wins. So, no, that was the one I read. I really enjoyed that comic.
So I had a comic of Hulk when I was a kid, when I first decided I like Hulk. And I don't remember what it was, but one thing I do remember from it is he was always saying the puny human, puny human. Well, as a kid, when I was reading it, I didn't know the word puny. So I was reading it as punny.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I asked my mom, what's punny? And she's like, well, it's when you're telling puns. And she told me what a pun was. So that always stuck in my brain for a little while. Like, why is he telling people that they're funny with puns? That makes no sense. All you punny people.
I had that exact same thing. That was one of those words that I never said and I never heard anyone else say. I just read it. And I definitely said punny as well. But I don't think I had the humility to ask my mother about it. So I just kind of assumed that it was pronounced punny until, like, I'm gonna say probably high school. Like, realistically.
Oh my goodness! Just ask, guys. There's no need.
I was a very toxic child. What can I say?
Oh, I misunderstood Rafe. Apparently, there's a new clip where he throws a rock into orbit. I didn't see that.
Nor have I.
She throws one pretty far, and then he gets jealous and just like overhands it like into orbit. Yeah.
That's good. I am glad to see that because I did mention this in my video as well. It kind of sucks for Bruce because he always has to be relegated into the back of other people's stuff. And so while I'm so excited for Jen and I cannot wait to see her celebrated the way I think she deserves to be, I also am really craving, like, give me more, because they have me on such a drip feed with character details for Bruce. Like, give me more, give me more.
There is a reason why Thor Ragnarok is my favorite Thor movie.
Yep.
I'm assuming it's because you are a huge fan of Hela, the goddess of death.
Yes, exactly. No,
Precisely.
I love every chance we get to because we don't get a solo Hulk movie anymore. Every chance I get to kind of just suck some Hulk out of Marvel, I enjoy it. And so the fact that he's going to be in every episode already has me psyched. And this is going to be a 9-episode series.
Yeah.
I'm hyped about that.
But what pisses me off is just like what Ash said when we did our Miss Marvel episode. We all had to sit through these debut episodes or debut shows for characters that are 9 episodes. And Matt Murdock comes along and gets 18 episodes.
That's
that's a great transition because I do want to talk about the Marvel Phase 5 announcement.
Big boys.
And Daredevil was one of them. Daredevil's getting a lot of stuff because he's featured in his own large show. He's going to be featured in She-Hulk.
He's got to be Echo as well.
Echo, exactly. Do we need that much Daredevil?
Yes, and I'll tell you why.
Yes. Okay.
Well, all right. Thank you so much for listening
we need to have a timeout.
podcast.
We need to have a timeout. Did EJ and I just agree with one another without any sort of like? We didn't talk about this, EJ. Accept my embrace.
I guess I will, Josh. You know,
Of course
every
EJ
now and
loves
then.
Daredevil.
We
It's
were
all
in
about
lockstep.
terrible South self-flagellating men with guilt and Christ complexes. That's all EJ loves.
Yes,
I love
exactly.
Matt
You just
Murdock,
find-
I do, but he is getting a lot of stuff coming up. Like they are
Well,
shoving
you have to
him
think
into the
about it
spotlight.
though. Like we just got rid of a lot of marquee Marvel characters in Endgame, right? So we don't necessarily have a lot of the mainstays guys there. So what's better time for Daredevil to really take the scene with big players like Captain America, Iron Man out the way, right? So you already had a fan favorite that fans wanted, right? We've seen multiple times, like when I'm on Nerd Twitter, I saw multiple times where people were like, "Hey, let's bring Matt Murdock back. Let's do it. I mean, it's been happening for forever now. So it just makes sense for where this universe is at this time to give him a ton of content, you know, especially after where we left Spider-Man off, which apparently, like, Spider-Man is probably, I would say, the best, the most interesting character of them all right now. Josh, why are you calling me?
I'm calling you because I just want to make sure it's really you. That's all. I was just trying to confirm that this wasn't some
You're not some
Android
clone.
bot. Hey.
Who knows?
Way too
I'm
much
a Snyder
work for
fan,
a
so I might be a
bit. What
bot.
are you even doing?
I had to
Tune
confirm.
into Knights of the Nerds table for this bullshit and more.
I gotta say, besides Hulk, I definitely wouldn't say Spider-Man's the best character we got in Marvel. I would say second to Hulk, I would put Miss Marvel. I loved Kamala Khan in that series. Which has really got me hyped for the Marvels coming out. That's I don't know what to even expect for that movie. Other than having the Marvels together.
I didn't watch y'all's Miss Marvel episode, so maybe you guys talked about this. But did anyone notice at the end of Miss Marvel when Carol appears in Kamala's bedroom? Kamala doesn't seem to be there anymore.
No, they traded places. Yeah.
So they're doing like a Rick Jones Captain Marvel in the 1980s thing, right? Like that's what they've got to be doing.
I don't know that reference, but maybe.
So back in the 1970s, 1980s, Rick Jones, Hulk's sidekick, basically.
Jay, I think you're frozen.
I believe that is the case as well.
Yeah, I had some internet connection issues myself, unfortunately.
Yeah, you're choppy. You're breaking up and glitching. That's why I called you. I had to make sure you weren't like some weird hack in the system or something. I thought it was some weird virus came and took over. Because, I mean, you and I were agreeing, so I was getting concerned.
Yeah, no,
you're gonna drive this bit into the ground.
Oh my goodness! I mean,
Put him
I just need to
backstage
come out-
until he fixes that.
I just need Josh to come out with a different take so I can just come out so hard against it, just to make up for all this agreeingness.
It'll happen.
So-
Give it time.
So, anywho's then, the reference that I'm making is in the 1970s and 80s, Rick Jones, former sidekick of Hulk and Captain America, obtained these artifacts called the Negabands, which were these two bracelets that, when he clapped them together, allowed him to trade places with Marvel, the original Captain Marvel. And he would get sent to, I think it was either the Negative Zone or the Microverse, doesn't matter. But there was like this kind of like body switch type of deal going on with them. And it seems like they're doing something with that.
A body switch.
Yeah, basically.
See, to me, what my understanding was at the end of Miss Marvel was they just actually switched places physically in space. Like wherever she was, that's where Kamala is now. And now Carol's just in her bedroom, not knowing where the heck she is.
Yeah. And I will say, it is definitely possible that I'm overthinking it, but that was just like immediately where my brain went. And I'm, like you say, I couldn't be more excited for
where
seeing
my mind
two of them
went
and
originally. I actually thought, because in the comics she shapeshifts into Carol, I thought maybe they were actually fully just scratching the powers they were using throughout the show and just be like, oh yeah, she has powers now, and now she shapeshifted into Miss Marvel. But then I took a second and looked online, and that's not what anyone was talking about. And so I was like, okay, never mind.
And the way they did the effects doesn't I think that would be funny if like somehow like she switched powers at the end, but the way they did the effects work, it doesn't look like that's what they're going for.
That was just my first reaction. But what else do we got coming out of Phase 5? Phase 5 is going to be fun.
We're finally going to see Mahershala Ali as Blade, and boy, oh boy,
yes.
It kind of seemed like Marvel basically just took a break with Phase 4. It was like, yeah, guys, we're not that serious. Oh, then they came back like, don't worry, guys, the big boys are still the big boys, you know?
I had to disagree because I have loved Phase 4.
I feel like it had a couple of just bumps in the road. I talked about that in my video, but I just felt like, I think maybe it's because I just didn't like Thor very much. Thor was tough. Eternals wasn't as good as it could have been, but I really liked where they were trying to go. Multiverse of Madness. Multiverse of Madness was one of those movies where they just didn't say no to any idea. Anything that came on that table, anything that was pitched, like, yeah, do it. Zombie? Yeah, why not? Let's do it. You know, nothing was said no to. And
EG's opinions do not reflect the opinions of the Bear the Beard podcast.
You know what's really funny is we have that same announcement for our show too. EG's opinions do not reflect the opinions of Knights of the Nerds Table. Thank you for watching.
His opinions don't reflect anyone but his own damn self.
I mean, it didn't do well when it comes to the ratings. Like, it didn't do as well. Multiverse of Madness is kind of one of the lower ones. I like it personally because I'm a Sam Raimi simp, but you know,
yeah, that movie was a Sam Raimi greatest hits album put over a Marvel movie, and I'm not going to complain about that.
Yeah,
it's sad Jay's not here for me to say Pizza Papa always gets paid.
Yeah, he does. Oh man, but no, I do feel like Phase 4 has felt different than the last couple of phases, but I also think that's because this was the reset. This is the Infinity Saga is done. Take a breath. And
exactly.
I feel like so many people were like, no, we need to know what the next thing is. We need the next big bad. And I'm like,
everyone wants the next Endgame now. And I'm I want Iron Man 1 and Thor 1 first before I get to Endgame again.
Yeah.
And that's
it took me a decade to get to Endgame.
I definitely think if people's expectations were big, huge things happening, then yes, I could see why Phase 4 could be a little lackluster for them. But for me, I was just looking for origins and characters I don't know about yet to teach me about them, explore their stories, and start pushing us towards the next big thing. And I feel like Phase 4 has done that.
Yeah, I actually thought it was one of the more creative. Because if you think about Multiverse of Madness, you can say what you want. Sure, it wasn't as commercial, like Rotten Tomatoes wasn't nearly as kind to it, but it was definitely had more personality than a lot of different other Marvel films out there. Loki had a lot of personality, right?
Oh yeah, and we're getting Loki
freaking
season
WandaVision,
2, and I'm so excited for that.
So I think it was a surprise, the underdog of the series, because I wasn't looking forward to WandaVision. I didn't even care when it came out. I watched that first episode. I was like, where are we going with this?
See,
yeah.
I knew that we were confused for a reason when I was watching that first episode, so I did not judge it until we got to where we were going, and I'm glad that, because there was a lot of people who at first that they waited until everything had come out and they heard where the hype was going, and then they started watching it after they felt episode 1 was boring, and I feel like they missed out on the mystery. I loved not knowing for a week.
And also, like, we talked about this back when we did our WandaVision episode a million years ago when we were just doing live streams. But, man, how can you look at that first episode and see the sheer amount of work and artistry that was put into creating a picture-perfect homage to the Dick Van Dyke Show?
Dick Van Dyke, yep. And I'm a sitcom,
and the magic they used, everything they used was used in the technology that they could have used during that time. Mm-hmm. Like her magic, they had pull strings. Like
they did
it the way it should have been done for it to be that kind of TV show, and I loved it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you went all the way.
WandaVision was a work of art, and I'm prepared to throw hands about it.
Exactly. Dick Van Dyke to Modern Family, like it was a whole basic retrospective love story to the sitcom, genre, whatever you want to call it, right?
Yeah.
I'm a sitcom sim. Dieter knows this. I watch sitcoms all the time. So it just was something that was just it was interesting because I was just watching every episode to see what types of things I was going to miss from each decade.
Yeah. I think that we had this little period of sort of chilling out, right? And I think you all made really good points. And I think some of the fans, and my opinion, I haven't crunched the numbers or anything, but my opinion is that the people that are upset right now are the more recent fans. I feel like the people that have come within the last few years, and maybe they did like a bunch of binge watching and kind of caught up and then watched the Infinity Saga war movies and was like, oh my, this is awesome. And it was awesome. But us people, we've been in this for literally a decade, and it took that long to get to that point. And that's
enjoy
a big
the ride,
chunk
guys.
of time. And I think that it's okay to kick back and relax a little bit, rebuild some things. Like there's some characters and there's actors and actresses that are done. They're not going to be doing this anymore. So we got to sort of introduce and usher in this next crew, this next crowd. And there's other stories to be told. And as we know, there's like the source material is endless and it's still coming out. Like comics are still being written and made with these characters with brand new stories that haven't been told before, or stories that have been told in a new light from a new perspective. And I think it's okay to take a little bit of time to appreciate that. Let them build up to Kang the Conqueror. Let them build up to potential other supervillains that I really, really, really want to see on the big screen and feel confident that we will see in the semi-near future. Dr. Doom. Sorry. There's something in my chest here that I had to get that out.
Yeah.
Dr. Doom would be amazing. So I have very little sympathy for the people who are being impatient for the next Endgame because of what you just said right there. We had 10 years to wait for the next Endgame, for the first Endgame. And we're getting Avengers Kang Dynasty.
Not to mention, like the biggest part, we had to wait a
That's
year
not that long
to figure out what happened between the two movies. We watched the first one, and you had that huge spoiler alert for the movie that's been out for like 5 years or whatever at this point.
Everyone dies.
Everybody dies. Yeah, like half the universe is gone, and that's how it ends. And we're all like, "What?" And we're like waiting for the cutscene at the end, and we're like, "What? What's the answer? What happens?" And we had to wait a whole year before we could go to and then we start that movie, and it's like 5 years later, and we're like, what do you mean 5 years later? What are you talking about? What's happening? So it was like the way they did all of that was great, and I think it made it worth it. I think we all
best
know
cliffhanger since Empire Strikes Back, really.
Yeah, like there's like a,
and we're not even having a full year in between the next two Avengers movies.
Yeah,
correct.
Both coming out in 2025.
Yeah. So like people that are complaining, it's like, listen, like this is unprecedented. The amount of content that is getting pumped out right now is insane.
Well, and then there's people complaining that there's too much stuff coming out. So what do you want? Do you want more stuff, or do you want them to hold back? Because they can't do both.
No, people just like bitching.
I'm like, give me more.
It is worth noting. Let's all pour one out for the poor VFX artists who are gonna have.
Yes, of course.
I see no problem with the She-Hulk graphics. I see what people are trying to complain about, but from my perspective, this is something that doesn't exist, and a VFX artist put it together for a show with whatever the show's budget has, and it looks pretty darn awesome.
I think people, like EJ was saying, people are going to complain no matter what. That's really what EJ was getting at. It's like people, and EJ is captain of the complainers. He'll find something to criticize in anyone or anything. Listen, if you ever feel like your self-esteem is a little high and you feel like you need to be knocked down a few pegs, call up EJ. He has got your back. He will tell you some flaws you didn't know you had. He'll tell you about the weird hair or eye thing that you have going on that you didn't even know. He will knock you down a few pegs. Free of charge anytime.
Is our channel breaking up live on stream? Like, what's happening? I just broke 20,000 views for you guys.
No,
that's what happened. We had success. Now we have to go solo. So
that's right. That's right. It was like the Beatles.
I did notice that when I was watching the She-Hulk. little thing.
Thank you.
That
Yeah.
22,000 views. That's amazing. Congratulations,
thank you.
guys.
Thank you.
We are
We're really
to-
having a good time with it.
To pull back the window, first things first, like, yeah, it does definitely help that we are really passionate about this project. But we would not be anywhere. And I'll say this on this channel, I'll say this on any channel. We are very lucky that we have some people working behind the scenes who I'm not going to name because I don't know if they want me to name them. But we have some people working behind the scenes to help keep us motivated and to help make sure that what we are putting out is the best it can be. So to those people, if they are watching,
a team.
he did. If those people are watching, just know, guys, we know that we wouldn't be anywhere without you all.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right. Well, anything else from Phase 5 you guys really want to dig into? Guardians of the Galaxy looks like it's going to be awesome. Captain America New World Order.
That's
Oh
mine
my
right
God.
there. That looks good.
Thunderbolts.
so hyped
I'm
for
pumped for Thunderbolts. I think that's going to be pretty sick. They've been building up to that for a while.
I was going to say, I've got a pet theory here.
Okay.
Do you think that they might pull a little trick on us and give us a two-parter to cap off Phase 5 as well? Because I could see Captain America New World Order ending on a cliffhanger and going into Thunderbolts. Just based on the title and based on knowing that the whole Thunderbolts concept is about all these like low-key villainous heroes rising up and doing what nobody else can. I've got a feeling that those movies might be tied together a little bit.
Well, was Thunderbolts a movie or is that going to be a show?
Thunderbolts is going to be a movie, he said. Yes.
Yeah, I believe
be
a
a
movie.
Okay.
I believe it's a movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Directed
So I
by
don't
Jake
even-
Schreier.
Yeah.
The Thunderbolts are named after Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross, and with him no longer being around, sadly, what do you think they're going to approach that with?
So there were actually, at least in the comics, the initial Thunderbolts team was not named after Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross. They originally had nothing to do with him. In the original comics, basically what happened was back in the 90s, the Avengers, Fantastic Four, and just those two. The Avengers and Fantastic Four got shunted into another plane of existence because Marvel was going bankrupt and they outsourced those two comics. It's really fascinating and complicated. But with the Avengers and Fantastic Four gone, the world needed big name superheroes. And obviously they weren't going to accept the X-Men. So a group of villains got together, led by Baron Zemo, who we've met in Civil War and Captain America and Winter Soldier. And Zemo put together this group of like C-list villains, including who was it? It's a whole bunch of people. Songbird.
So is this some kind of Suicide Squad?
Guys.
Kind of.
Yes.
Yeah,
honestly,
that's
yes.
sort of the basic idea.
It was the idea of what if the Suicide Squad, but instead of being willing to die for the government, they were willing to die to get respect.
Yeah.
And they basically their whole goal was to trick the world into believing they were heroes, and then ta-da, we're not really these heroic identities, we're just a bunch of villains and we're going to take over the world. So the Thunderbolts name originally came from this catchphrase of justice like lightning, which I say it out loud and I realize how lame it sounds. My apologies to Kurt Busiek and Fabian Nicieza, but that's really not a good tagline. It wasn't until I want to say 2007, it was post Civil War, that Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross, in the form of Red Hulk, basically revamped the team.
Yeah.
So I don't think we're gonna see Ross. We might be, but I think the Nick Fury of the team is almost certainly going to be Julia Louis-Dreyfus as the Contessa, who we saw at the end of Black Widow and we saw at the end of Captain America and Winter Soldier.
Yep.
Yeah.
She's definitely up to something.
She is, and honestly, I am here for it. Julia Louis-Dreyfus in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is just such a dark horse casting, and I can't
know,
wait
right?
to see
It's
what
so
she
it's so
does.
fun.
Yeah,
It's so fun.
so out of left field.
I want to give a shout out real quick before we get too far off. So I'll point this out right here. I've got our logo, which was it was hand painted, and that is our original logo. And my buddy Zach is watching this. So Zach, what's up, man? Thanks for checking out the stream. Thank you for our original design on the logo, and say thank you to Angie for me, who painted that for Christmas for me last year. I just want to say hi to him. And then I wanted to segue into something I'm super excited about. So if it's okay, unless you guys want to keep talking about the next phase of Marvel, I want to point out something that's sort of like quote unquote breaking news. The source is it might not be 100%, but here's what I'll say. We're doing a video that's going to be coming out tomorrow. I'm actually going to have to get up like super early in the morning to like get it so that it'll come out live. But we have a video coming out tomorrow. We're branching in the world of anime, right? So I'm a huge Dragon Ball Z fan, huge anime fan in general. Now, I just read an article and a post that seems pretty legit, and I've heard a lot of rumors around this. So there's been a lot of rumors about Zack Snyder possibly directing a live-action DBZ project, but now there's a rumor that Disney actually wants to create a multiverse, a live-action multiverse, similar to the Marvel multiverse, but in the DBZ world. And there's rumors that Kevin Feige is going to be involved with it. So I wanted to bring that up because it's Disney, but it's anime. And I want those two worlds to clash. And I have said before on our channel that if you take Shang-Chi and you take Captain Marvel and you put them together, you get an amazing live action DBZ movie that's done properly and looks really, really good. So I'm excited. I just wanted to bring that up because I cannot wait for that to be a reality if it is, because that'll just blow my mind. It would be so cool to see studios with lots of resources like Disney get behind a project like DBZ. So I don't know if you guys are DBZ fans at all or whatever, but I can't wait. I hope
I might
it's
get
true.
roasted alive for saying this, but I never cared about Dragon Ball Z as a kid.
That's
That
probably the
Yu-Gi-Oh, I
same
just
as
never.
that's everybody else on the stream but me. I'm the only one who cares, and it's okay.
I'm happy
Leave
for
me
you though.
alone, my love.
That sounds
Yeah, we
cool.
love you,
And
Josh.
Honestly, if Kevin
Listen,
Feige
did you
really
like-
got
did you
behind
like
that,
Shang-Chi?
I would give it a try.
Did you
Yes,
like
I did.
Shang-Chi? Okay, did you like Captain Marvel? EJ, this isn't for you. Beard, did you like Captain Marvel? Okay. All right. Because I know EJ didn't. So you liked both those movies, right? Put them
wanna say
together, and
something.
that's Dragon Ball Z. That's what
The
Dragon Ball
only
Z
thing
is.
in the MCU that I have not really liked is Thor: Dark World. That's
Thor:
pretty
Dark
much-
World, Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
The
Okay,
Incredible
EJ,
Hulk.
okay,
Fine.
okay.
The Incredible Hulk. The Incredible Hulk is kind
Is
of
a
one of my
masterpiece.
favorites, but it gets recognition for having Hulk in it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's a masterpiece.
And honestly, for a guy who clearly didn't care, Edward Norton did give a really good performance. Like he really showed up.
I actually
Even
think
though
he's
he
a better
didn't want to show
Hulk
up.
than Mark Ruffalo. But
Mark Ruffalo blows him out of the water.
like, I just like his portrayal of a darker, more grittier, Hulk than just the playful James
It feels like a
Gunn,
DC version of Hulk, and I don't want it.
So Beard, now's maybe a good time for us to pitch to you this segment idea that EJ has for our channel, where he gets into arguments with people.
That's real. So we're trying to come up with segments for people, and we have Dieter. Dieter's is going to be Dieter Knows. We're still workshopping mine, but we knew it was destiny that EJ's would be him arguing with somebody. That's the only thing
EJ
that
has
makes
to
any
get into a
sense.
fight with someone.
EJ versus.
Yes.
What's your
EJ
least
versus
favorite?
whoever.
What's your least favorite Marvel project?
Least favorite, I gotta say Guardians 2. That one just grinds my
Okay, we
gears.
can argue about that.
I just think it's a
He
terrible,
just likes to say
awful
things
movie.
that are stupid, and then just be like, it's like a hot take thing, It's like, oh, it's controversial. Let me say this, and it'll
Honestly,
upset
guys,
the people.
when I watched Guardians 2, it made me think of this article that I read a couple of years ago that basically the next time we're going to get an asteroid that hits the Earth and just destroys all life is like in 12 billion years. And at that point, I just thought about what a shame that was. And that I wish it came before those curtains ended. because that really was my way out of that movie. And that tells you how
this man wished for the end of the world over having to watch Guardians 2. That seems a little dramatic. I'm going to call that one out. That sounds a little dramatic.
So I'm guessing you're not hyped for Guardians 3?
I don't know. I think Guardians 1 is one of the best MCU films out there. So I very much so range.
Okay. Maybe not the best. It's up there. It's up there. I can agree that it's a good movie.
Yeah, I think it's very fun. I mean, a lot of the musical choice in the first one are just better. Like, James Gunn is very hit and miss for me. Sometimes I love what he does. Sometimes I just hate it. And Guardians 2, for me, they kept on throwing out gags. The jokes just weren't that funny, whereas in the first one, it was actually genuinely hilarious.
Maybe your comedic mind is just not very refined. My favorite part was the giant snort from Dieter.
I just want to remind my fellow co-conspirators that we are in somebody else's house, and
I'm sorry.
House guests.
Yeah, I feel bad. This is supposed to be a Bear and the Beard with the Knights, and now it's 3 against 1.
It is. For the Bear, we miss you, and hopefully we will get to do this with you soon.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We'll
Thank
do
you
this
so
again
much.
very soon.
Yeah.
We are getting a little long, but I do want to briefly talk about all of the DC announcements. DC really
18,
blew it out of the water this year.
Hey, at least now
we got
with
2
the benefit
lightning
of
bolts.
hindsight, we know
Go
now
back to that
we
Shazam.
got 2.
That Shazam needs some more time. Look at that.
That is
beautiful, huh?
Beautiful.
I like
artwork
that
right there.
I don't know who...
fan art or is that legit key art that they
everything I'm finding for Shazam, there's like 8 or 9 of these different versions of it, so I think that's official art.
Wow,
for the movie.
Really
okay.
I like that a lot.
So do they have the other characters then, I would assume, in that
In
same
some
art
of
style?
them.
Yeah.
In some of them in that style, yes.
That's so cool. I like that a lot.
I love the Shazam movie, and I hate on DC a lot. Not because I hate DC characters. DC
we understand
has so much. I'm a huge Flash fan, but DC shits the bed.
Barry Allen or Wally West.
But Shazam was actually a very hype movie. I've watched it 10 times now.
Yeah, and the budget wasn't that big for it too. It still was pretty good.
Yeah, it was genuinely great. Like top-notch performances all the way around. Genuinely a really fun coming of age story, which I will say Shazam earned some extra points for me because I don't even know if Josh knows this. I know EJ knows, but I don't know if Josh knows. I'm adopted. I was adopted at a very young age. Okay, you did know that. And so
Samesies.
Seeing,
Pound it. Oh, hold on. I gotta. There we
go. So those scenes with Billy, trying to come to terms with his lineage and trying to make peace with the fact that someone would give him up. That's stuff that I did struggle with when I was a kid as well.
Yeah.
And it was really cool to see that in something that a lot of people are going to see. So I really liked it.
Yeah, I think really the only crime of the Shazam movie, I think it was refreshing because it was good, and it was at a time where DC was, I know this is foreign and really weird to imagine, but it was at a time where DC really wasn't doing well and wasn't, producing a whole lot. Sounds so different than our reality now, but it did really, really well. But what it didn't do well was what it's still not doing well. At the end, when we get Superman, we get a Superman cameo. Actually, we basically just see his crotch and his chest, and they're like, "Check it out, it's him. We promise."
But I love that because he's carrying an actual lunch tray.
He is. That's true. He is. I forgot about that.
That felt so Superman to me. He actually had a lunch tray.
More Clark Kent than Superman, but
yes. Yeah. The lunch tray was that was a nice touch, but it's like, just do it. Come on. All right. But we don't need to get into a whole tangent about, I mean, I guess we could talk about it a little bit about how DC doesn't have a Superman. And EJ, you talked about this in your video that you put out when we were doing a little bit of coverage for the Comic-Con, and you were just sort of talking about everything Marvel's doing and how DC's really, dropping the ball. and you would set a line, and actually one of our people who watched it commented and even like quoted you, and it said, yeah, there's no DC without Superman. And it's true. I mean, like, that's sort of like the basis. Like, you have Superman and Batman, those are your foundations, and you build off that. But for whatever reason, DC just can't seem to do that. I'm super
Batman. They just didn't do right by him.
They've had multiple good
Batman.
Batmans. The last 3 Batmans have been excellent, in my opinion. I like all 3 of them. I think all 3 of them did great. I think my issues with them aren't the actors themselves. I think it's more the writing and the direction and the studio absolute nonsense.
I never liked Henry Cavill as Superman, though.
Ooh.
All right, now this one.
It's been a great,
is your fault.
Extreme, y'all.
Oh, this is your fault. I can't save you.
I saw EJ's face just drop. He was like, "What did you say?" I don't know what it is about his. I cannot give a legit, reasonable criticism about what it is. It's nothing against Henry Cavill. Henry Cavill's a great actor. I'm not sold.
You just don't like really handsome, great actors. It's okay.
It could be that there was something flawed with the way he was directed in Man of Steel. I don't know. It's probably not that.
I don't know.
There's definitely issues with those movies, but like we've had. I'll just say this: in the early days of Knights of the Nerds Table, which we're kind of still in the early days, to be honest with you, but in the beginning. Genesis 1-1 of Knights of the Nerds Table was,
and EJ said, "I need to monetize my opinions on the internet."
Yes, exactly. EJ's like, I'm sick and tired of not being paid to spout a bunch of nonsense day in and day out. It's time I change
if Alex
this.
Jones can do it, so can I.
Fair enough. So we did a whole series, and I did all the editing for it. I wasn't a part of it as far as the like content, but Dieter and EJ broke down in great detail the Snyder Cut. And
some might say too much detail.
It's 6 episodes. I mean, and each one is like 45 minutes to an hour long. I mean, it's a lot of content on the Snyder Cut. So they went deep into it.
That kind of sounds like us with it kind of sounds like watching the Snyder Cut, honestly, a little bit.
So it's longer than the Snyder Cut is, actually. We talked about it longer than the actual movie was.
Well, we did that for the Eternals. We talked
really?
For 4.5 hours.
Because I was on with you guys. We had to like split it up, and it was we couldn't stop talking about
the
it.
Eternals more after we did the episode, and I realized how much the Eternals did right. Yeah. And I went back and watched it again, and I found more stuff to like about the Eternals.
I agree.
I think
I will defend that movie to the ends of the earth.
Right.
I think it's overhated.
The points that I wanted to bring up with that really was just that ad nauseum we discussed it. I heard it, and we also talked amongst ourselves. And we all kind of came to the same conclusion that by and large, the casting of the Snyderverse, we're there for it. We don't really have many issues with the casting.
Ezra Miller, we're done.
It's more,
At the
it's
time,
more so. It's more so the direction, right? It's more so the fact that Warner Bros. Just couldn't really. It felt like from the beginning they're always trying to play catch up, rather than just like focusing on what they had right in front of them. They kept looking over here at Disney and Marvel and what was going on. It was like, we got to catch up. We got to do this. We got to do that. Instead of just
still doing
focus on what you have right now. Yes, exactly. So like they just had a Batman movie that was very successful, very well received. By and large, people loved it, thought it was very good performances. Build off that. Why aren't you like,
hey, I'm going to break some hearts here.
Running with that.
We're not going to get another Batman movie for another 5 years. They said that. Then the sequel will take about 5 years.
Exactly. That's my point. Like, why is that a thing? It doesn't make any sense. You're doing something right. Why not build off of it? And I feel like every time they're like
full of characters, I would argue that the main characters of DC, like in comic wise and cartoon wise, are better than the main characters of Marvel. And I love Marvel. I'm saying that as someone who loves those characters. DC has great deep storylines, and they're not doing that cinematically.
Yeah, and DC was like before Marvel, like now Marvel's starting to go this way, but DC wasn't afraid of the dark, the grit, the violence. You know, they weren't afraid of telling more real stories, I guess, so to speak. In like for a while, they've been comfortable with that. So I think they should build off of that. And I know EJ loves a good dark slow-mo scene with lots of violence. So, whoa.
See, I think they should build off of the tones that they built in Peacemaker and the Suicide Squad, because I think that's the best, like, happening in the DCEU. Those are the best two things to ever come out of
Shazam was excellent. As we were just to circle back to that, I'm very excited for the next one because of how well that movie did. And conversely, I'm very excited for Black Adam, and I know EJ is too. EJ and I have been talking about this movie for a while, pretty much since it was announced. We keep going back and forth because we really like The Rock. Like, The Rock is one of those actors that it's like, he's so charismatic that it's like, how do you not like The Rock? You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to love every movie he's in or love him, but how do you watch a movie? It's like Jeff Goldblum. It's like, how do you watch a movie with that person in it and be like, I hated that movie? You know what I mean? You just can't do it. You can't bring yourself to do it.
One criticism that him and help me, the actor for Peacemaker, why is it slipping my mind?
John Cena. Can't see him. That's why.
I can't see him. The criticism that they both get is that they're the same character in everything they're in. But
who cares?
In comedy movies, that's true. But if they're doing it well and if we like who they are, who does it matter if they're the same thing in everything they're in? As long as they get the role right.
People criticize Ryan Reynolds for that as well. They say he's the same exact person, and I'm like, okay, who cares? I think when who that person working, is hilarious, and he like fits
that box office perfectly. That says we're gonna do it again.
Yeah.
And you gotta remember with Cena and Rock, they have something very, very significant in common, which is that they're both professional wrestlers.
Yes.
And professional wrestling, like, that's how you make your money. Is you have a consistent, charismatic character that connects with your audience, and your audience doesn't want to see you, putting on a mask and being a different wrestler every night. No, they want to see John Cena. They want to see The Rock. They want to see, apparently nowadays, Logan Paul. By the way, that's a thing that's happening in WWE right now. It's weird. No, straight up. And you want to know the worst part? I'm a huge professional wrestling fan. Like, I love professional wrestling. I watched SummerSlam, and the weirdest part for me was not seeing Logan Paul. The weirdest part for me was that Logan Paul had a good match, and I liked it. I'm not kidding. The dude showed up and did the work. He had a match with him at SummerSlam, and he was throwing frog splashes and Spanish flies. Anyway.
Hey, Beard, I actually had a quick question for you. I know you probably saw the whole situation with Batgirl. Were you really looking forward to that movie?
I didn't even know it was coming out or that it was a thing, but as soon as I heard about it and saw the cast for it, I was immediately upset about it. So I didn't get to know about it until after it had already been canceled. So I felt like it was something I didn't even know I wanted, that now it's taken away from me. And I'm like, what? Why?
I don't know if that's better or worse.
Yeah.
No, it's just so frustrating to see DC just not make up. I'm hoping. I think we said this off stream as well. Like, I think we're gonna go full reboot almost. I mean, what David Zaslav says that he really does like the Trinity, so we're gonna have a lot of movies based on the Trinity, the three. So,
yeah.
See, the problem I have with them restarting is, to me, and Josh said this earlier, and I said it in a very early episode of the Bear and the Beard podcast. DC is always playing catch up to Marvel. Literally, word for word what Josh has said and word for word what I've said in the past. They're always playing catch up. And to this, them having a 10-year plan, Jesus, that just sounds like they're copying Marvel again. If they were doing it because they believed that was the right path for them individually, then I could get behind it. But to me, I just think they're copying Marvel again. They're like, okay, now we're going to try slowing down.
It's hard to have hope, because they have offered us hope so many times and let us down, right? So we've taken the chance and we're like, okay, we'll give you another shot. Okay, you know, and they've had a couple of bright spots. Like I think we can agree. I think we all thought the first Wonder Woman was a really good movie. I still haven't even seen the second one because I cannot find a single human being alive that has any reason why I should watch it.
I disagree. I actually enjoyed that movie. It's not the best movie ever, but there is stuff to enjoy in that movie.
Maybe I'll check it out eventually.
I think it wasn't the best movie ever. I think that's kind of where we can leave. I don't know. Wonder Woman 84 angered me so much. Like I was super psyched for it. The thing is that because Patty Jenkins wants Wonder Woman to be more Linda Carter-esque, whereas I like the direction she's in BVS, her solo movie, and Zack Snyder's Justice League, where she's a warrior. She's an Amazon warrior. She's taking out her sword. She's cutting off Steppenwolf's head. She's badass, right? We don't have to shield away from that and make her all Linda Carter-y. Linda Carter worked for that reason. It's like if you took Batman and made him like Adam West. It just feels weird.
Adam West.
Yeah. Oh, Adam West's Batman is great in its own thing. It's just not great now, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know?
So I think it's just hard to have faith / hope, whatever word you want to use. It's hard to believe in DC and believe that they're going to deliver. But what we can count on is they are going to keep trying, right? Because there's so much money to be made. There are so many characters that are beloved and are going to continue to be beloved. And no matter what happens, even if they can't get it together and come up with a solid like 5 to 8 years of decent content,
they'll have some diamonds.
Yeah,
like even in Scrabble with DCEU, they have some diamonds.
Yeah.
So no matter what, we're gonna get some good movies eventually. But
right, and I mean, let's not kid ourselves. It's not like Marvel has just been crushing every single movie they put out. I think most fans agree that the majority of the movies are at least good, and some of them are great. So I think that's what's been so exciting is that like the bad to good to great ratio is like very conducive to a growing fan base and like a continuing loyal fan base. Like think of how we've talked about this before amongst ourselves too. Think about how whipped we are as fans. I mean, we'll sit in that movie theater for 3 hours. We've had to pee since 5 minutes after we got there, and we're just like suffering through these credits, and we're like, no, I can't miss these end credits.
And then they troll us with the end credits sometimes. They know we're sitting in those seats.
They know.
I need to see that 30 seconds of Harry Styles and Patton Oswalt at the end of Eternals. God damn it!
When DC can keep me in the seats, I'll give them a round of applause.
Yeah.
And there's one other thing I want to say. Josh, you mentioned something there. I mean, I know I complain about DC all the time, but DC, because they're also consistent, they haven't been able to build an actual audience. They don't know who it is. Because think of it this way, guys. And we've talked about the Zack Snyder stuff, but obviously Dieter talked about this, the whole article that came out right the week of Comic-Con, where they tried to smear and said, hey, 13% of the Snyder Cut community was bots or whatever, which isn't. They said it was an overwhelming majority, but 13% means 87% were real. So I don't know if that's the one they thought it was. But anyway, I thought it was interesting that they would have that smear article come out, and then when they had a bad opening for Comic-Con, right, with Henry Cavill not showing up as Superman, what did they do to make people feel better about themselves? 2 days later, they released a photo of Ben Affleck with Aquaman on set. Now tell me this. Ben Affleck's going to have a cameo in Aquaman. That's what they're like, hey, don't worry, guys, we have Ben Affleck cameo. Tell me this for a second. What does a Ben Affleck cameo in Aquaman, what fan base does that appeal to?
Well, not just that. What is that saying to the fans when you know that you're stopping this DCEU and trashing it and starting over again? Who cares if there's a cameo?
Also, why are you even teasing it when we all know you're just going to cut it out of the film anyways?
Might not even release the film. Day before it comes out. By the way, we're not releasing it.
Yeah, the bigger point I'm making here is that you're actually appealing to the fans that you said were fake. If you like Ben Affleck as Batman, chances are you're probably a Snyder fan. So do you really know who your audience is at this point?
I think EJ is getting us the closest to the solution to this. Is we're trying to find a master plan here when I'm not convinced there is one. Right now, the corporate structure at Warner Brothers Discovery is in so much flux, both creatively and financially, that they can promise us the 10-year plan, and they did promise us the 10-year plan. And they promised that we're going to have architects like Kevin Feige, and okay, that's a good goal. But right now, you're still at the corporate level of restructuring, where David Zaslav is looking at every single human being he sees like a piece of branch of the Dollar Tree that he could just hack off with his, Grim Reaper scythe. And so as a result, like, it's great to know that that's your 5-year vision or whatever, but I don't think you can promise that to people and have them believe it currently. Marvel can promise that and have us believe it because we've had return on investment. It's not like, you notice when Iron Man and Captain America were coming out back in the late 2000s, Marvel wasn't saying, hey guys, we've got 3 phases and it's going to end with a 2-parter. No, they were like, we'll try Iron Man. Like, we can't use Spider-Man. We can't use X-Men. Maybe people will like Iron Man. Here, please like this. And trust built because Iron Man was so good, because Thor appealed to people, because Captain America appealed to people, because Avengers was a success. And it's now gotten to the point where, let's be honest here, if you're out here and you're watching this and you're one of those people who's complaining about how, phase 4 has been messy, it's not been up to the standards, you're still going to show up for the theater.
Exactly.
You
have no idea how many times I've said that. If you don't like it that much, you'll stop throwing money at Marvel. Marvel's still raking in the cash.
But do you know? But the thing is, to those people, this is not a condemnation that you're showing up. This is just attempting to illustrate that Marvel, at this point, whether you like it or not, Marvel has established and created a relationship with you as a consumer, and you have learned to trust their brand. Yep. And DC doesn't have that.
I saw a funny TikTok where it was someone green screening themselves as Kevin Feige, and Kevin Feige putting on a DC hat, saying that he's taken over DC. And I kind of had a dream in my mind for a moment. What if DC acquired Warner Bros? First of all, think of the real world implications that would have.
To clarify, I'm sorry. Do you mean what if Disney acquired Warner Brothers?
Yeah, and then Kevin Feige was put in charge of it. Like, Marvel Studios and DC no longer competitors; they're just run by the same dude.
Well, that almost happened, right? Because Kevin Feige had talks with Warner Brothers during Phase 2 of the MCU. He was having some creative differences with the head of Disney at the time, and they almost made the switch.
And with Ike Perlmutter.
Yep.
Ike Perlmutter was the guy who made it so hard for him I believe he is still currently the head of Marvel Entertainment as a whole.
He's the one that basically had an email that said he didn't think female heroes would be profitable.
Oh my god. Ike Perlmutter is a bad person.
Yeah, so no, it almost happened. The alternate universe
we're happy about.
Another multiverse that happened, Beard. So you're not that far off.
That's true.
And I'm just putting it out there as a speculation because, maybe Kevin Feige alone wouldn't be enough to make DC be good. I don't know. Because there's a lot more people working behind Marvel than just Kevin Feige. There's a lot of people who have passionate, fan opinions about the Marvel Universe that are working on this. And I think that's what makes it even more beautiful.
Yeah.
So I think that pretty much wraps up all the hype.
Yeah.
Real quick, I gotta say, because we didn't bring it up, and if I don't bring it up, I'm gonna be sad. Black Adam is giving us the Justice Society of America. I love the Justice Society of America, and I am hyped for that.
There is a lot to be excited about, and let's hope that we have been a little bit negative, but you can't really blame us given what we've gotten from Warner Bros. and DC. So hopefully we'll try again to be patient and hope that some of these characters that we love so much will get represented in a better way, and that they'll start to build the universe out in a way that we can get behind and have some fun being a part of.
Yeah. And I do think it's important to note, and I am very much against the gatekeeping of fan spaces. But I do think there's one important piece of gatekeeping, which is if you are a person who wants to see a company, a creative endeavor really of any kind fail, then you are doing yourself a disservice, and you are doing everyone involved with that creative endeavor a disservice. So we're not going to stop complaining about DC Studios or whatever it is and David Zaslav. Of course we're not. But it is coming from a place of love. It is coming from
we want it to do well. That's why we're complaining.
Good stuff. Like we've said some positives. There's some stuff DC does right, but they really got to pull themselves together. I mean, do they want that Marvel money? Because they could get that Marvel money.
I'm ready to give them that Marvel money, and I'll still give Marvel that Marvel money too. I will
make the world's finest movie. Darn it!
I want a Flash movie. I'm so sad.
Well, and
it's okay.
I know.
It's coming out. It's coming to theaters near you in 2037.
I got a question for you guys after the stream about that, actually.
All right.
Oh, man.
All right. Well, thank you guys for. But I want to thank you guys for joining. This has been a lot of fun. We got to do it again soon. Hopefully, Bear can be here next time. Sad that Jay's phone died, so that's where Jay went.
Yeah.
But this was a good time, and we'll do it again soon. We'll find a topic to discuss.
Yeah.
Till then,
thank you for having us.
Stay bearded, stay awesome, and much love.
See you again.
Boom, cut the check.
That was totally wicked.
Thanks for checking out another episode. We hope you enjoyed it. New episodes are released every other Friday at 8 a.m. Central Standard Time. Check back then or subscribe so that your device downloads it automatically. Audio episodes are available pretty much anywhere you get your podcasts, so it's really easy to share them with all your nerdy friends. For YouTube viewers, subscribe and click the little bell so you're notified about all our new content. Links to talk nerdy to us can be found in the episode description as always. You can chat with the Bear, the Beard, or the rest of the Bearded Bear team, head researcher and graphic designer, Mama Bear, the social media sorcerer, Nerd Squatch, the master of marketing, Han Bralo, the master merch fabricator Tyler the Great, or any of our public liaisons, Mama Kim, Katie Cat, or JB. Huge thanks to them, the geeks of the round table, and all our awesome friends of the cast. Much love y'all. Lastly, for more cool music like this awesome outro track, go check out Harlequin Soul, Secret Apex on Facebook and Spotify. His links are in the description as well. Talk at you next episode, nerds. See you then.